Now take a real good look at their faces and tell me what African tribe you see. Said that nose, ain't it? Yeah. Original American.
The concept of us saying yo to one another is really basically coming from the Chalagi or Cherokee of saying oh shio, the way in which we dance, the way in which we walk. The walk in the 70s that many people thought was an Afrocentric expression, in actuality was a long-haired Cherokee warrior walk. The hip-like walk that is expressed as being Afrocentric was not Afrocentric at all. A warrior walked, and he walked with a limp, and his shoulder would dip as he walked. Now, that type of walk is not the only where in which you have seen that cultural expression is in America and by those who call themselves African American.
Country or not, whether or not they pass your look test.
Depends whether or not you're approving it, sir.
No, it's not a question whether I'm approving it. It's not a question whether I'm approving it.
Reservations that you've approved, you, sir, in your great wisdom have approved. I will tell you right now, they don't look like Indians to me, and they don't look like the Indians. Now, maybe we say politically correct or not politically correct. They don't look like Indians to
Well, today we will hear from foundational Black Americans talking about the true history of Native Black American Indians. Check it out.
The Native Americans are also being targeted in the deportation. They're being detained. And why is that? Well, the government has no more need for them. They was on federal land. Those reservations are federal subsidized land. They get checks from the government. And they also were brought here from Siberia. Check out the Siberians, pay attention. And the government also is very aware that they don't have the birthright that they thought they had. No, because you were brought here, you're no longer an asset to them. They know who the indigenous people is. You see what I'm saying? Oh, this is about to get real. The reason it's about to get real is because when the real indigenous black people are shown to be the true people of this land, that means they're going to owe you back every bit of those taxes that you and your ancestors had to pay. See, we don't want reparations. We want restoration. We want every fucking thing you stole from us, the land included. See.
Oh, I figured it out now. The census, the same census that enslaved us, is about to free us, okay? Because listen right here, it says American Indian is a person having origins in any of the original peoples of North and South America. That includes the people of Haiti. So how come the United States marks Haitian under black, which is a person having origins in any of the black racial groups of Africa? That's discrimination. You can't do that. So American Indians, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of North America, that includes Haiti. However, Haiti is not tribally affiliated. So that then gives me claim to say that the United States has eliminated the identity of American Indians, who are the original peoples of North America, but do not have tribal affiliation to the 5 tribes that are governed by the United States. And that also includes the American Indians who are mentioned in the 1682 Virginia law, The Baby Follows the Belly, where it says these American Indians were taken as slaves through the baby follows the belly, and then we weren't freed until 1865. So we too should be under American Indians, but they continue to put us under black. So thanks to Haiti, I can prove that American Indians who don't have tribal affiliation are not on the United States Census and being put into the black category of racial groups of Africa, because us as American Indians, the three-fourths of us freed after the Civil War in 1685 did not get freedmen cards to acknowledge African descent, because we are the American Indians who were taken with the baby follows the belly in 1682. The American Indians taken from Haiti in 1493 are indigenous to North America, just not tribally affiliated. So the United States is discriminating against American Indians who are not affiliated with the tribe and claiming that they are of the black racial groups of Africa, which is not true. And I just proved it. Happy Indigenous History Month. I'm on their ass, okay?
Since the Native Americans are so smart, and you got your degrees and you know every goddamn thing, Then why aren't you guys getting up here discussing the 1924 Racial Integrity Act? I told y'all to leave me the fuck alone, but y'all wanted to push. So let's motherfucking press these motherfucking pipes. And surprisingly, this document or this bill was passed the same year that you guys were able to call yourselves Native American. I broke this down in 2 parts. Yes, we're reading the entire thing. Buckle your seatbelts. And I'm finna give you hoes a little Daryl. You might as well go ahead and call Bonnie Boss. It says Senate Bill 219 to preserve racial integrity passed the House in 1924 of March 8th. And it's now a law of the state. Oh, I can't wait to jump into the gold. This bill aims at correcting a condition which only the more thoughtful people of Virginia know the existence of. It is estimated that there are in the state of from 10,000 to 20,000, possibly more, near white people who are known to possess an intermixture of colored blood. Now, before I finish, I need all of y'all Native Americans to drop that meme that y'all have been passing around of the, was it the identity crisis of the Negro? Y'all go ahead and drop that before I finish. Because y'all know we were classified several times, but y'all don't believe us. Let's keep going. In some cases, to a slight extent, it is true, but still enough to prevent them from being white. Oh. In the past, it has been possible for these people to declare themselves as white, or even to have the court so declare them. They have demanded the admittance of their children into the white schools, and in not a few cases have intermarried with white people. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that the only intermarried that we had to worry about was the Cherokees and the Europeans. I didn't know that the coloreds and the Negroes had that to worry about as well. I mean, maybe in 1924, because that's after the slavery was abolished, right? Let's keep going. They exist as distinct colonies holding themselves aloof from Negroes. So y'all didn't believe us when we said that our terms were interchangeable. But I just proved to you that we got colored and now we got Negro. Let's keep going. But not being admitted by the white people as of their race. Y'all ready? In any large gathering or school of colored people, there goes that word again, especially in the cities, many will be observed who are scarcely distinguishable as colored. These persons, however, are not white in reality, nor by the new definitions of this law. That a white person is with one with no trace of the blood of another race, except that a person with 1/16 of the American Indian. So if this document was to prevent Caucasian people or colored people who could pass as Caucasian from passing as Caucasian, then why are they called American Indian?
So you mean to tell me that you got so-called Native Americans who are sitting around complaining, talking about their relatives are being deported and they are being misidentified and that they are scared and need to travel around with their tribal IDs with them? And they also said that it's not them, these are their cousins that's being deported. Now I got a question. Foundation of Black Americans and Foundation of Black Americans alone. If you ain't a Foundation of Black Americans, this question is not for you. Foundation of Black Americans and Foundation of Black Americans alone. Do any of y'all got a cousin that could be deported? Any of y'all? Any? I don't speak too fast. Do any of y'all got a cousin that could be deported? Also, correct me if I'm wrong. How can they mistake you or somebody? This reminds me of that Jesus story. When I was little, this is how I knew Christianity was When I was little and I heard that story of Jesus escaping to Egypt, how the hell can you escape and blend in somewhere if none of the people look like you? Didn't make no sense. However, he could run somewhere and blend in if all the people look like him. And also, riddle me this. I seen a comment saying, it'll reach a point to where tribal IDs will not matter no more. History always repeats itself with a broken heart. So I'm guessing that's a Native American that left that comment. But I'm just sitting here thinking, I'm smoking and thinking, I'm sipping and thinking. What did you mean by that? Because history repeating itself for us is still here. Bad or good, no matter which part of history you want to pull. You want to pull our creations, you want to pull out slavery, you want to pull out the way they enslaved us on our own plantation, you want to pull out anything, it's all here. What do you mean by history will repeat itself and your tribal IDs will not matter no more? It's almost like you trying to say, and I'm just trying to put two and two together because that comment, it was equaling 5. Because it's almost like you're saying that you made a deal with somebody that has crossed you before, and you're at risk of them crossing you again. But I don't know.
They say it took 7 tribes to defeat us. 7 tribes. You know what else there's 7 of? Continents. That means the entire world was against the melanated people of the Americas, and we still here. This tribe that you're talking about here was one of the biggest participants of the destiny swap of the people of the Americas and the rest of the world. They cosplayed us. They enslaved us. They fought for our demise every step of the way. When we were begging, praying not to get hung from trees, they were fighting against us. And y'all get under my comments and literally be like, we can't go against the Native Americans. We gotta align. For what? They don't align with us. The whole world be against us and y'all be trying to show them grace. Y'all be trying to give them grace. Fuck them. They will atone for their sins.
Native Americans are really getting deported right now.
They're slowly being pushed away from the table. I got the nerve to call us wabos. I can't hide no more. Y'all took on someone else's identity. Tried to claim something you know nothing about. Now the chickens are coming home to roost. I've been trying to tell everybody how we get to see who the real wabo is. Everybody know that y'all showed up on the scene dead ass last. Trying to use the corporation to get benefits. The benefits that was really supposed to be given to the indigenous people. Like y'all moved in, y'all get to move right back out. Time to send everybody home that's not indigenous to this land. Yeah, I remember they called us pretendian too. The nerve to call us pretendian. Donald Trump showing y'all who the real pretendians is. Get mad at us. Get mad at him. Get your bottom lip up and have the day you deserve. Why though?
The indigenous people to America, according to the scholars of America's Indian antiquity, Leo Weiner and Barry Fell and Sertima of more recent, was the black people themselves. So when we think of the Native Americans we see today, and many of them we see, and we'll get to that $5 Indian that you like so much, but even the Native American that we think look like the Native American, the original Native American didn't even look like them. The original Native American were black people. The Indian don't resent that word Indian. Many of them resent the word Native American. They don't even want the word America attached to them because they were nation. And a lot of them prefer the term indigenous. You really cannot discuss the history of the Native American without discussing the history of Black America. Their relationship was so entwined in the shaping of those two cultures and in the undermining of those two cultures here in the United States of America. As we know,
that term African American is a fairly new term that was brought about.
We're not African nor are we American. We are the original people of the earth. We are the indigenous people of the earth. We are far older than that word Africa.
When most people hear Native American, they imagine red skin and feathers. When they hear Black American, they think Africa and slavery. The reality is that Native Black American Indians have always been part of this land. Early European maps and journals described Black Indians up and down the Atlantic coast, tribes with dark skin, curly or woolly hair, living in organized nations before Europeans ever set foot here. In fact, many southeastern tribes, the Yamasee, Washita, Catawba, and even branches of the Cherokee were described as black. Some even fought against colonists in the 1500s and 1600s, long before slavery became the main narrative. One erased truth is land ownership. Native Black American Indians held territory across the South: Georgia, Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi. The Washita Nation, recognized in Old French and Spanish treaties, were Black indigenous people who lived along the Mississippi River Valley. They farmed, fished, built towns, and traded with Africa and the Caribbean before colonization. That history has been buried because it doesn't fit the slaves-only storyline. Another truth: the Seminole Nation. The Seminole people in Florida were never a single tribe. They were a union of native groups and free Black people who escaped slavery. Together, they built one of the strongest resistance movements against the U.S. government. The Seminole Wars in the 1800s were so fierce that America spent more money fighting them than almost any other conflict of that era. Black Seminoles weren't runaway slaves. They were free people, defending their homeland alongside native allies. But colonization did what it always does: it divided. Through the Dawes Act and the Indian Removal Act, many native Black people were forced into false categories: colored on one hand, Indian on the other. This stripped generations of their native identity, erasing their role as original people of Turtle Island. Yet, the truth still breathes. Oral traditions, old census records, and family stories remind us that Native Black Americans were not outsiders. They were the builders, warriors, and keepers of this land. From the Yamasee in South Carolina, to the Washita in Louisiana, to the Black Seminoles who crossed into Mexico, their presence is undeniable. For far too long, the mainstream narrative around Black Americans has been one-dimensional: enslaved Africans brought to the Americas. While that chapter is real and painful, it is not the full story. What's often ignored or deliberately erased is the deep, complex, and ancient history of Black people in the Americas long before 1619 and even before Columbus stumbled into the Caribbean in 1492. Across the globe, every ethnic group, from the Irish to the Chinese to the Aztecs, has a recognized origin story. People study and celebrate where they came from. But when it comes to Black Americans, the conversation too often begins and ends with slavery. That's no accident. It's a systemic form of historical erasure. But history, oral traditions, archaeology, and even admissions by modern tribal nations are proving otherwise. The term Turtle Island comes from indigenous creation stories across North America, especially from Iroquois and Algonquian-speaking peoples. But what many don't know is that some of the earliest descriptions of the inhabitants of the Americas speak of dark-skinned, woolly-haired people, people that closely resemble what we today call Black people. From Olmec stoneheads in Mexico, clearly bearing African features, to accounts by early Spanish explorers describing dark-skinned tribes in Florida and along the Mississippi River, the evidence keeps stacking. These aren't theories. They're artifacts, records, and testimonies. Ancient Black nations and tribes lived in what is now North America long before Europeans and enslaved Africans arrived. These indigenous Black Americans were here, rooted in the soil of Turtle Island, practicing their cultures, languages, and trade. Fast forward to the late 19th and early 20th centuries, when the U.S. government began issuing the Dawes Rolls. These were official lists meant to determine tribal membership in native nations, especially among the so-called 5 civilized tribes: Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, Muskogee, and Seminole. Here's the catch: many Black native people who had lived with these tribes for generations, often intermarried, shared culture, and even fought in wars together, were excluded or placed on separate freedmen rolls. The Dawes Rolls labeled them not as tribal members, but simply as freedmen, which stripped them of their rights, land claims, and full citizenship within the tribe. This government-sponsored separation rewrote identity and legally erased Native Black people from the official story. It was strategic, aimed at limiting land claims and consolidating tribal power in the hands of a few, especially after the Civil War and the ending of slavery in Indian Territory. After over a century of denial, the Cherokee Nation officially recognized Black freedmen descendants as full citizens. This wasn't just a legal decision, it was a validation of generations of oral history, genealogical records, and DNA evidence proving that black people were part of the tribe, not just as slaves, but as kin. This change didn't come easily. It followed decades of legal battles, activism, and pushback from within the tribe. But it opened the door to re-examining other tribes' roles in the enslavement of black people, a part of history many Native nations are still hesitant to confront. The uncomfortable truth is that some Native tribes were complicit in chattel slavery, owning enslaved black people, and aligning with the Confederacy during the Civil War. That's a part of the past that complicates the narrative of shared oppression, but it must be told. It doesn't erase the suffering Native people endured under U.S. colonization, but it does highlight the layered, interconnected, and sometimes painful truth of how Native and Black histories intersect, not always as allies, but sometimes as oppressors and the oppressed. Now, the acknowledgement by the Cherokee Nation is empowering a movement of Native Black freedmen, descendants of those original Black tribal members who are reclaiming their rightful place in America's story. These individuals and families are restoring their languages, reconnecting to their cultural roots, and challenging the forced identity boxes of just African American or just freedmen. And where are all the naysayers now? The ones who said Black Americans were just descendants of slaves with no ties to the land, no roots here beyond chains and cotton fields? They're silent. Because the truth is louder than lies. The narrative is shifting. Scholars, archaeologists, and even tribal elders are revisiting what they were taught. The presence of Black people in the Americas is not a recent accident. It is an ancient, foundational truth. Black people have always been here, and now the world is being forced to remember. This is divine judgment. America is under judgment, not by man, but by God himself. The same God who judged Egypt, who judged Babylon, who judged Rome, is now weighing America in the balance and finding her wanting. America has sown destruction, and now it reaps decline. It has sown arrogance, and now it reaps humiliation. It has sown lies, and now it reaps truth. Truth that cannot be hidden anymore. America is a land built on blood, on the sweat and suffering of the people it has enslaved, displaced, and silenced. But tell that truth today, and they call it divisive. They call it unpatriotic. They want you to believe that history is just a collection of dates and figures, stripped of the brutality, the deception, the theft. They tell you the Trail of Tears was just relocation, that the Colfax Massacre, Wilmington Coup and Massacre, Rosewood Massacre, Atlanta Race Massacre, Ocoee Massacre, Tulsa Massacre, Harlem Race Massacres of 1943 and 1964 was just riots, and that Jim Crow was merely a setback. What they refuse to admit is that America was never a nation of freedom. It was a nation of conquest, built on white supremacy, and it has never stopped being one. And that is why they are so desperate to erase the past. You see, history, real history, has power. It reveals the truth of this nation, of what was done and what is still being done. They call it critical race theory today, but it's just the truth, and that's why they fight so hard to bury it. From school boards banning books, to politicians scrubbing slavery from textbooks, to social media platforms silencing voices that dare speak honestly about America's past. White supremacy is culturally ingrained into every aspect of white society, in the home, school, religion, and politics. But tell me, what does it say about a people who fear history? It says they know their hands are bloody, and they are terrified that their children will ask them why. Because the truth would destroy their illusion of innocence. The same way it did when the world saw Black Wall Street burn. The same way it did when Jim Crow's chains were exposed for what they were. The same way it did when the Southern strategy was revealed as a blueprint for racial control, not democracy. But America has always had a strategy. Slave patrols became the police. Redlining became modern real estate steering. The plantation became the prison. And now, they want to act like none of it happened. They want to rewrite history to keep future generations obedient, ignorant, docile. And yet, what they don't understand is that you cannot erase pain. You cannot erase memory. You cannot erase the reality of people who have suffered and endured. This nation made laws to steal land from native people. The Homestead Act gave free land to whites while barring black freedmen Americans from ownership. The Immigration Act of 1924 made sure America remained a white country, closing its doors to those it deemed unfit. And when we, black freedmen Americans, dared to build wealth, dared to thrive, they sent mobs, they sent bombs, they sent laws disguised as justice to tear down black freedmen Americans' communities. And it wasn't enough for them to unalive us. They had to erase us. They built highways through our neighborhoods, turning communities into ghettos. They passed California Proposition 14 to uphold segregation. They used COINTELPRO to assassinate black leaders. They used the daughters of Confederates to put Confederate statues in our faces, not in 1865, but during the Civil Rights Movement, as a warning, as a message. And still, they want us to believe in their version of America, an America where slavery was a misunderstanding, where the Tuskegee experiment was a footnote, where mass incarceration is just an accident. No, sir. No, ma'am. White supremacy is in the bones of this country, in the schools, the churches, the homes, the politics. It is a disease, and they refuse to cure it. But there is something they should fear more than the truth being known. They should fear what happens when the next generation realizes they have been lied to. What happens when young people of all colors understand that history was stolen from them, that their textbooks were propaganda, that their teachers were ordered to deceive. A people who know they have been deceived do not trust, and a people who do not trust begin to question everything. That is what America fears most, not the past, but the reckoning it demands. And that reckoning is coming. No matter how many books they ban, no matter how many voices they silence, no matter how many lies they tell, truth is like a flame. It spreads, and once it touches the people, it cannot be extinguished. The question is not whether America will reckon with its past. The question is whether America will survive what it has done. Tell me what you think about this topic. Hope you find the information in this video informative. Feel free to like, subscribe, share, comment. Thanks for watching.